All right. Welcome, you guys. Glad to see many of you guys here. This is awesome. I am looking forward to sharing more information with you in regards to foot zoning. It's been an absolutely, obviously for me in my life, game changer. And I know some of you guys have heard my story. And if you haven't, you can read more about my story on my website at amberbodyhealth.com. But today I am really excited to introduce to you Kate. Kate is an amazing woman full of fire, enthusiasm, a wealth of knowledge, and she is definitely a delight to everybody that she comes in contact with. I was grateful that she was able to take time out of her busy schedule to go live with us and have her tell us about her journey with foot zoning, how she came across foot zoning, how it helped her. She is an Olympic athlete, and she was able to use foot zoning to help her on her journey of healing and also use it in many different ways. And of course, now she is a certified foot zoner. So I'm going to go ahead and bring her on in. All right, I think she, hey!
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Girl, it's so good to see you.
Good to see you. You look great. This is so fun.
Thanks. Yeah, so much fun. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule.
Of course. Let me just figure out this camera situation.
I know. All of a sudden when it hits two people, it like starts cutting things off.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's perfect.
But we can see you. So this is good. So thank you for being here with us and creating the space for us to chat and also to really inspire others and also inform others what foot zoning is. But also first, I want you to share with us your journey of foot zoning. Like, how did you find it? How did it help you? And kind of all that good stuff. So I'm going to kind of let you take it away and go from there and just share whatever you feel inspired to share at the moment.
Cool. I love it. All great questions. I feel like that's kind of the number one question I get is like, how did you even like come across this? And yeah, it's interesting. I feel like everyone is on a journey and mine has led me here, which I never would have thought. So I studied business in college. So I never found myself getting into health or anything like that. But what was happening, I competed in a sport called luge for about 11 years of my life, and I retired when I was 21, and I had a lot of concussions. I had a good amount, and for anyone that doesn't know about luge, it's not super popular in America, a lot more popular in Europe, but it's pretty much we go down an icy track on our back feet first, and it's based on time. We'll hit up to speeds of 80 miles an hour, 70 to 80 miles an hour. So yeah, it's pretty wild. So when we crash, it's a beautiful sight. So
Impact.
Yes, and I grew up in California, so it's not, winter sports aren't really up my alley, I guess. But yeah, so I had a lot of injuries, and so when I retired, I went back to college. I had a lot of sleep issues. I hadn't slept really a full night ever since competing in the Olympics, and I kind of thought that was normal. I didn't think that it was that big of a deal. I would wake up, 3 to 5 times a night, sleepwalking. My mind just was never able to calm down, and so I ended up doing a sleep clinic a couple years ago, and I got diagnosed with a sleeping disorder, actually, and I had never heard of it. It's called idiopathic hyperinsomnia, if anyone out there is in that world. And yeah, and so so they told me I had a sleeping disorder. I would have it the rest of my life, and they were going to put me on Adderall, and they were just like, there's no cure. People live with this, and it's just your lot in life. And I just was like, okay. And it was really interesting, and I just kind of was really prayerful about it, and I just was like, there's just got to be more. I just can't accept that this is my answer. And my boss at the time referred me. He's like, you got to go see this woman. She works on people's feet. I don't know. Right. You got to go check it out. And at that point, I was so desperate for healing. I was ready to fly to Israel and bathe in the River Jordan 7 times. Like I was,
sister. Yeah.
yes, I was ready to do anything. I was so desperate for sleep and rest. And so I went to this lady and she looked at my feet and she nailed it right away and was like, have you had brain trauma? And I was like, yeah. And I just was sobbing. And she's like, do you have neck issues? Yes.
Yeah.
Did you break your back? Yes. Like just boom, boom, boom. And I was like, I'll do anything you say. And after about 3 months of her protocol, I finally got my first full night of sleep. And I haven't taken my medication since. So
Yay.
yeah. So then I was like, I have to study this. This is just to work on myself. I need to learn how to take care of myself. And then I just became so passionate about it, and now it's part of my routine. It's what I do. I work on clients, and I'm super grateful.
Yeah. Amazing. One thing I love is that what you had shared is that you realize that you have to take care of your own body. You have to like, you wanted to learn something so that you can help care for yourself and everybody out there. All have this body that we live in, but most of us are not taught how to care for it or how to empower it, how to cultivate it, how to make it more healthy. We just aren't. I really feel like with this journey that I've been on, these ways are lost on ways to learn how to better care for our bodies. So
Right.
What made you decide to learn this? I mean, obviously this amazing experience, but you have this moment where like, I've got to learn this, or oh my gosh, this is what I have to do. Did you have any, did you ever have moments?
I had a moment. So it's interesting, like coming from the world of professional sports, you're given all the top resources. So you're given top trainers, you're given top doctors. And so I was, so in my mind, like I knew health, like I knew what I needed. Like I competed for America. Like we are one of the top countries in athletics in the Olympics. And I just thought like, oh, I know everything I need to know. And so I was greatly humbled when, I was one of the, I excelled really well in my sport, but then I was just crippled by this like sleep issue. And everyone's like, oh yeah, I struggle with sleep too. And it just like really, really took me to my knees of like, wow, I didn't know this type of pain, I guess. And it was interesting after I started working with this woman, I was converted. I was like, I'll do it. I will eat clean. I will take your oils. I will do all the witchcraft.
You snip your stuff, yeah.
Yes, I will do your mantras, your meditation. Girl, you tell me, I'm doing it. And there was a moment when I, at that point in my life, I thought I was going to actually make a comeback and go back to my sport. I thought that I still had it in me to compete for another couple of years. Usually in my sport, we don't peak until our late 20s, and I'm 28 currently. So a lot of my teammates are still competing, and I thought that my answer was, I'm going to go back and I'm going to start training, and I can still do this, and I'm going to do it now with this knowledge that I have. I'm going to do it eating clean. I'm going to do it knowing how to work on my feet and being able to do these things. And so the lady, she's like, well, if you get more concussions, you need to learn how to take care of yourself because you're going to be in Europe, you'll be living abroad. And I was like, okay. She's like, I'm starting a class. This is the program, whatever it's actually starting next month. You should jump into it. And I was like, okay, I think I need to do this is my answer. And if anything, like I'll learn it for my kids and like, this is interesting, cool. And so then that's kind of what it was. So it was this idea of like going back for another Olympics when in reality, I decided that didn't pan out in the way I wanted it to go, and which was a blessing. And it really just led me into diving further into foot zoning. So it's interesting. Life is interesting. And I was working at a tech company at the time. Like I was desk job girl. Like I was not health girl. So I'm so grateful that I listened. I listened to life, and so it's super interesting. But I mean, you've had your journey as well. I mean, I feel like in order to find this, like you really need to like be seeking, like you really need to be seeking and desperate enough for healing, or else it doesn't mean as much, right? So, and I think it's interesting
Right.
too, because you attract clients that really need you, that really need answers and help. And so it's such a humbling line of work too, because I work with people that I'm like, man, like your problem is above my pay grade, but like, but like I'm here to help. Like, let's see what we can see in your feet, and just like, let's just like give you care and listen, and let's see in ways that we can fill holes in your health
Yeah.
journey. And I don't know. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Just like you mentioned for yourself, you have this crisis that occurs, or this awakening, whatever you want to call it. You can call it like one of your greatest blessings. At least for me, I look back and be like, oh my gosh, if I didn't have to go through that experience with my son and myself, but yet that was the very thing that rocked me to my core, that opened me up, that allowed me to see outside of the box, see what I was
Right.
currently searching for. Because and then when you hit rock bottom, and then beyond rock bottom, you kind of go, oh wait, if I keep doing what I've always been doing, I'm going to get the same results. So I've got to go somewhere else. And that's when you really search, you pray, you meditate, you research anything and everything
Right.
that's out of the norm, or maybe that's just not the mainstream, but you're totally open to try anything, because you really are in a place, you are absolutely humble, but also just open for receiving more. And in that moment, I feel, is also the greatest blessing and the greatest miracle. I mean, that's how it was for me, which led me on this path. And it's interesting, like you say, I had a desk job. You had a desk
Yeah.
job, not in health. I always loved health. I was an aerobics instructor for 15 years, and went on for another couple years, but triathlon coach, doing many different things. So kind of health, but more, fitness. You are like ultimate fitness as Olympic athlete. But then there's something that calls you to a greater understanding about the human body. And for me, I was a graphic designer for 17 years. I designed
Yeah.
corporate identity in the Silicon Valley. I loved what I did. I never thought I would be tickling people's toes. Are you kidding me? Or
Totally.
classes, like what?
Right.
You would have told me that 15 years ago. I've been like looking at you like, you crazy.
Right.
But there is something that calls us, something that is greater when you truly understand the what is in store. And if we really understood the human body, each of us, those that are listening, each of us have this body that we live in, but it's up to us to take care of it. And most of us don't know how to take care of it, just because we haven't been taught. And to be honest, I don't want to say this in a negative way, but just a factual way. We're taught, throw a pill at it, take a drug, do this, okay, and you'll be fine. We just end up covering up a lot of these symptoms, which then we have greater symptoms down the road. When in reality, we should be looking within and saying, what is the root cause of that problem? What is out of balance, and what can we get more in balance? Now, for those that are watching, like, some of you guys might have the question, like, well, can I learn foot zoning? Or I don't need to become a foot zoner. I'll just go see a foot zoner. The beautiful thing is, if you become a foot zoner, some people learn foot zoning not necessarily to become a foot zonologist practitioner, but they want to empower themselves with more knowledge to take care of themselves, their family, or their community. Because there are times when we just can't run to the doctors every single week, or we can't run to those specialists, or we have run to 12 different specialists all over the US and then abroad, but we're still not finding our answers, because we're not looking deep down within in the human body and all the systems, and figuring out what's out of balance. And that's what I love about foot zoning. When I learned it, I was thinking, oh, I'm just going to do this to help heal my children, to help, assist with my children, but having no idea
Right.
I would actually be tickling people's toes outside of my family. But I've truly seen the benefit, like you were mentioning, where people come to you and you're like, oh my gosh, okay, this might be beyond my scope, but hey, let's see what we can do to help get your body back in
Right.
balance.
Well, I love too, like, it's so nice. Like, one thing I'm most grateful for in this line of work is that, like, I always have something to offer somebody. Like,
Yeah.
that's something I didn't realize, like, in the beginning. I'm like, wow, like, it's so humbling when I meet people. I used to meet people who had all these issues, and I was just like, man, I'm just grateful that's not me. Like, I'm just, man, like, that sounds so hard. And, like,
Yeah.
and now that I know this modality, I'm like, hey, like, who knows where this will go, but like, I can at least like offer you something. I can offer you I don't know, some type of, it is anything. And it's actually interesting. It happened, I was on I have a motorcycle, and I was on a motorcycle camping trip at the beginning of quarantine. And I always carry my foot zone stuff with me because you just never know who you're going to run into.
You never know.
I was camping in this like RV park, and the RV next to me, they were like, so there was like this guy, he was so nice to me. He like brought me tea, and it was like turmeric ginger goodness tea. And the next morning, as I was like packing up my tent, I just went over, handed him a, I was like, thank you so much for the tea. Like I like all those herbs. I love that. Like, and his girlfriend came hobbling out of the RV, like with like crutches and a walker. And she was clearly ill. And I just started talking to them. I was like keeping my distance because COVID had just like blew up in LA. It was in March. And I was just like, I heard you guys talking about herbs. Like I work in holistic medicine. Like I love this stuff. Like I study it all the time. And so we just started having this conversation. And they're like, oh, what do you do? I was like, oh, I work on people's feet. It's called foot zoning. And the girl, she was like, oh my gosh, like I have been like praying, and I have just been craving someone to touch my feet. And I was like, you're kidding. I was like, I would absolutely love to. And I was like packing up my motorcycle. Like I was putting on my tent, and they're like, no, like you have to go. I was like, no, I carry my things with me. Like I would be so honored to work on your feet actually. And she told me her life story. She had Lyme's disease. So it was like a very severe case. And I was like, I would love to see what your feet look like. And I would love to just offer anything to you. Cause they were kind of on the run. Like they were like, just like living in their RV because that's how they got to the hospitals. And like, they were in like thousands and thousands of dollars of credit card debt doing hospital runs. And she was a college athlete. She went to occupational therapy school. Like wow. She was an incredible, and she was my age. She was like 28. She was like, maybe she was like 30, but an incredible story. And I just was like, wow, if anything, like I'm so grateful that I learned how to do this just to offer her, like just to be able to sit in this RV park and work on this woman's feet and just hear her story and like offer some sort of relief from anything. And we still keep in contact, and like I'm always like, when you come through LA, like I'll work on your feet, like come through. And so I just find myself with so much gratitude that I'm able to just offer someone anything. I don't know if maybe you felt that too, or I don't know, but
yes, absolutely. When you learn foot zoning, it is a tool that you will always have, and you never stop learning because of the situations that you come across with people. You always learn something from them, a new condition. You can also see exactly what's out of balance in their body through their feet. But what I love, just like what you said, it's something you can offer to anyone, and all you need is your hands. That's all you need. And you have something to give, to serve. Can you give them a lot of information? Absolutely. Can you give them answers that they've been looking for? Absolutely. But if anything, it's just give them that touch and reset their signal systems on their feet so that their body can do what it needs to do. And what a beautiful gift that is. So if you learn it just to have another tool in your back pocket, or you learn it to help with your own health or somebody's health in your family, or if you want to do it to actually become a practitioner, because oh my gosh, there's such a need for them out there. For whatever reason you want to learn it, it's amazing to have that tool and that knowledge in your hand, because it's something, like you said, that you can offer anyone, and it feels so good to be able to do that. So good. Now, some of you guys have asked, can anybody learn this? What's your answer to that, Kate?
Absolutely. If I can learn this and figure this out, anybody can. And it's really cool too, because you don't need to know, like going off what you said, like you don't need to know so much the details of someone's condition, because you're offering the same treatment to everybody, and the body balances the way it needs to balance. And that's something I love the most about it. It's like, oh, I don't know exactly what's going on with your autoimmune disease, and I want to hear about it, and it's good to know context-wise, but like it's the same thing every time. And with that, I mean, kind of like you've explained to me once, kind of like an onion, it's layers. So like every time someone gets zoned, it's one layer to get down to what actually is going on. And so in terms of learning it, I mean, anyone can learn it. It's incredible. And there are a lot of women who just do it just for their kids, which is also incredible. So it's rewarding work to learn.
Absolutely rewarding. So in my classes, because I'm an instructor in foot sonology, I've had 11-year-olds and I've had 71-year-olds, and then anything in between, any occupation in between. I've had nurses and doctors learn it, chiropractors. I've had athletes learn it. I've had, moms learn it, career women learn it,
Right.
scientists learn it. You name it across the board. Aerobics instructors learn anything, anyone, ever, because you are going to learn how to better care for your body. And again, whether you want it just for your own knowledge or if you want to use it to share with others, that's completely up to you. But these tools are definitely an enrichment to your life because you will know how to take care of things. Now, you mentioned something that some of you guys have questions on. I'm seeing you mentioned it's the same thing. So what she was referring to is every time you zone somebody, it's the exact same zone. Okay. You are always treating somebody, whether they come to you with something where they've explained that, hey, I've been diagnosed with Lyme's or neurological Lyme's, or I've been diagnosed with migraines, or diagnosed with ADHD, whatever it is. You always do the exact same zone on their feet because you are getting into the body through the signal systems on the feet and resetting, rebalancing, rejuvenating, and detoxing their body and working all systems. So where they come to with a heart problem, you're still going to treat their whole entire body so that you can figure out where the root cause of the problem is. And plus our systems work together. The lymph works with the circulation with the hormones with the bones, like everything interplays and intertwines together. So if you're just working on one system, you're not really balancing out the body and finding true health. So when you do a foot zone, when you learn the treatment, it's the same treatment that you do on anyone and everyone. So that's something to know. It's not if somebody has a specific condition, you're going to do a different zone than somebody else. It's the same thing because your job as the foot zoner, you are not the healer. And we don't heal. What we do is we help their body heal. We help that person's body do what it needs to do. Okay, we are just a facilitator. We just help. Okay, so definitely want to make that clear. Like, we're not the healers. Their body is the healer, and it can do magical things. That sometimes it just needs help in doing it. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. So one thing with foot zoning too, I don't know if you've realized this, Kate, but once you learn foot zoning, like, it just doesn't stop. All this amazing learning, all these amazing tools with the human body. Some people think, okay, now that I've learned foot zoning, I'm done. I feel like it just begins because it opens your world up to so many different lines of healing, foods and herbs and essential oils and so many different.
You can't unknow. Like, you can't unsee.
That's a good point.
what you learn. Like, I was just like taking an herbs class. Like, for no degree. Like, I'm just like,
I love that book.
It's so good. Like, I have to know more. And when you like start to get like a taste, and then when you start to heal yourself, it's like, oh my gosh, like, why aren't we talking about this more? Like, why aren't we? And I feel like it's kind of one of the top. I feel like it's kind of like my party trick. Like I'll be in social situations and people will just be like being an Olympian used to be my party trick, and now it's I work on people's feet. So it's like the first thing people say about me of like, oh, this is Kate. She like works on people's feet, and then people will start just like firing questions like, well, what about this? What about this? And then they think it's a joke, and then they'll be like, Kate, we'll work on my feet right now. And I'm like, like if you really want me to, I will, but like we can look at your feet real quick, and then all of a sudden I'll be like, oh, do you get migraines? And they're like, how'd you know that? Like, oh, or how? And so it's interesting, and then you start talking about it, and people talk about it. I mean, it's contagious. Like, the information is just contagious.
Yeah. And one thing I've noticed, having conversations with many different people, I feel like everybody's got something going on with their health. You know, whether I'm walking on the beach, meeting somebody, or I'm at the grocery store picking up my parsley, whether, you know, I'm dropping my kids off at a play date, somebody is talking about and something to do with their body with ill health or their
Right.
mom's ill health or something. I feel like that's like a
Well,
topic.
everybody has a relationship with health. Like it's fascinating because I'm also a personal trainer. So like just like you when you were doing aerobics, it's like
Yeah,
when you work in health, every single person is like in your industry because everybody has a relationship with health. And I didn't realize that. I was like, oh my gosh, like and they open up to you. People tell you things. Like they'll be like, oh yeah, I work in this, and then all of a sudden they're opening up to you about all these things, and you're just like, wow, like we just don't know people around us. Like we don't open up about these things. And then when you do, it just like gives you like, wow, like you really see people differently and you view humans differently. And
yeah,
everyone has a story and everybody has a relationship with health. Everybody has had problems with their health. And so it
right.
opens up the door.
Yeah, and we obviously all have these human bodies that we live in. One thing that I've noticed with foot zoning for me and with the hundreds of different students that I've taught is it empowers you. Instead of going around like, I've got this problem, I've got this problem, I've got this problem. With foot zoning, you can dive right into it and solve the problem. Like you have the tools and resources to get down to the nitty gritty, what's going on, and do something about it. I've met hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of different people that have gone to hundreds of different clinics, facilities, doctors, or gone to 6 to 12 different places in the US to do it. And they just don't have anywhere to go. They're lost, you know, they've got no answers. This is what I love about foot zoning. You could go directly to the feet, see what signals are off, see what is going on in the body. And then once you know, then you can do something about it. And that is what is so empowering. I look at you sharing your story. It's like, oh wait, I can do something about this instead of take this medication for the rest of my life and be
Right.
this zombie person. Wait, there's something I can take on myself and do for myself to empower
Right.
myself with better health and a better life, a better life. And we just don't know what's ahead. I know some people are like, oh, my body's perfect. That's great. What about in 5 years when your health
Right.
deteriorates, or, you know, in 2 years or 6 years down the road, heaven forbid you get in a car accident. But what if you had the tools and resources to heal a lot faster? I feel like foot zoning is definitely something that anyone can learn and anyone can benefit. And the things that you do learn, you use every single day.
Well, it's interesting too, like a lot of my friends, they're like, so who needs foot zoning or why would I come to you? And I'm like, well, I tend to work on people in the older generation because it's at that point when health problems start to manifest because we've treated our bodies a certain way for so long. So a lot of my clientele are not my peers. And so it's
Uh-huh.
interesting because I'm like, yeah, maybe in, 5, 10 years, like then you'll be coming to me because it's just seeing, I mean, now, I mean, you know how it is food these days and how we
Yeah.
take care of ourselves. And so it's super interesting because a lot of my friends are like, so who do you work on? And I'm like, oh, like my generation, we think we're still invincible. Like we still are, people are like, oh yeah, I'm fine. I'll eat, whatever I want to eat. And so it's kind of interesting, again, until people my age relate to me when they've also had their own health issues. And so it's kind of interesting how it like transcends like generations but yeah, it's fascinating.
So, Kate, if people were to ask you why, I know we've kind of covered it, but
Hmm.
off the top of your head, if someone says, well, why should I take the foot zoning courses? How would you answer that?
That's a good question. I mean, I definitely think like why someone should take them, and I mean even just get foot zoned in general. I mean it's just knowledge, and like we like I said, we all have a relationship with our health. And so in order to learn, I mean I mean it also depends on the type of person, right? A lot of people would rather just kind of be told what to do. I fall under where like I want to know the why, and I want to be able to do it for myself. And so taking the classes, it really just opens up everything, and it just gives you so many more options on how to take care of yourself, and you don't feel as much like a victim to your situation.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
you can take the power back and you can take control of your life, and you'll get into it. You'll buy one book on health and then you'll buy them all and you're like, wow, I just can't put these things down. And so really it's more of just like a service to yourself and a service to knowledge. Like education is power, and just learning about these things. And I think like you said before, the confidence it gives you to be able to just move forward with your health, I think is enough in its
Yeah.
worth right there.
Yeah.
So,
Well, this is amazing. Thanks for sharing. I never knew your whole story. I first met you in person at a foot zoning conference.
yeah.
You sat next to her. I sat next to you, and so I never really got to hear your full story. So this is exciting for me
Yeah. So
to
interesting.
learn. And so those that are watching and listening, even Olympic athletes learn foot zoning.
Yeah. And I so wish, I'm like, man, like what this could have done for me during my career. Like
Oh, yeah.
just through like I mean, it's just such a stressful time. It's such a stressful thing to be a professional athlete, and like how I wish like, because and it's now giving me a lot of insight on my career and how like my adrenal fatigue and like my concussions, like why I have the health issues that I did and do, because to know that like your adrenals should not be firing like that every day. Like you should not be in fight or flight every day. Like you to feel adrenaline every single day like that like is not good for you. And so it's kind of just giving me so much light. Like man, I it just would have been so helpful and knowledgeable to not think that I'm the problem. Like that I was just, oh, like sucks to be you. You know, it's just like, man, I just think it would have saved me so much like pain and hurt and sadness just to know that like there's answers and there's different ways to do this, and like you can succeed and you can choose essentially.
Yeah.
And
And you're
so
not broken.
you're not
We have to walk
broken.
around our life thinking, okay, well, you're just broken. No, you're not. There's just so
Yes.
much room for improvement that needs to take place. And then to be able to have those tools and resources to make that happen,
Right.
that
And
makes
that's
a
the
huge difference.
biggest disservice of all. Like health problems will come and go, but like the mental like baggage that it brings is like truly the saddest part to me, because people will be affected the rest of their life just mentally. I'm like, oh well, I have Lyme's disease and so that's just the way it is. And it's just like you're beautiful, you're incredible, like you're capable of so much, and like let's figure that out, like let's find out what that is. And like,
Yeah.
but it really like chronic illness is just so debilitating, and I would have never, I mean it truly, I think about like my career, like I represented my country and then I was like brought to my knees because of sleep issues. Like I would have never guessed that, and I would have never valued like sleep was just like, oh, you push through it, you get enough sleep, you work, like you wake up, show up to the race, like, and I just never realized like how important it is to like say no, slow down, like eat the right food, and like just take care of myself. And so I just would have saved me so many years of like sadness to
Yeah.
know that like I'm not broken.
Hmm. Yeah. If you had foot zoning before that, you brought up mental. So something I want to let our viewers or those that are listening in understand that foot zoning actually helps with physical, mental, emotional, and etherical, or also known as the spiritual body, because we are energetic beings. We're spiritual beings, or however you want to formally use that word. Um, but foot zoning helps in all of those areas. So we can have mental stagnations, or people can rent space in our head that will literally cause a physical ailment in the body. Or we deal with the physical ailment and it messes with our mind and our emotions, and then we have that to deal with. So in order to find true health, you've got to balance all those areas: physical, mental, emotional, and etherical. And foot zoning addresses all of that. That's what I think is so amazing. Gets those 4 pillars of your health back in order and back in balance so that your body can do what it needs to do. So if someone doesn't have necessarily a physical problem that has manifested yet, foot zoning also helps with the mental body, the emotional body, or the spiritual body, the energy body. So keep that in mind too. And that's also what's so amazing about foot zoning is you're diving into all four of those pillars to be able to find true health and find true balance within the body.
Yeah, no, I actually, one of my clients is working through a lot of anxiety and depression. And when I worked on him just a little bit ago, it was the second session I had with him. And I was just like, you look so different from like when I first worked on you. Like you look lighter, like you feel your energy, your frequency, you're vibrating higher. Like
Yeah.
he did like everything I told him, like the protocol I gave him, and he's like gone off his medication and he's like working through that. And I just was like,
Yeah.
like it's so cool to be able to see on the back end of what he's been able to feel and been able to figure out.
And it is the quality of life. There is a quote that I love. I've used it. I remember I first heard it when I was in college, but it's all people die, but very few people live.
Mm.
And when I meet people, they're like, oh yeah, I'm fine. But they've been dealing with so many ailments their whole life that that's normal to them.
Yeah.
That's just normal. And you're going, that's not normal. Did you realize how much better you can feel? Did you
Right.
know that how much energy you could have? Did you know how much passion and joy that you could actually feel if you weren't dealing with all this? And I think that being said, all people die, but very few people really live. There's so many people that are walking around in this world that are broken physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually, and they're not living up to their full potential. So a lot of times when people ask me, well, what do I actually do? I'm like, I help people find their true health so they can fulfill their mission in life.
Right.
And again, some people think, oh, I'm fine, I don't have any problems, but they don't realize how good they can feel if they get their body back in balance. But they've been out of balance since from a child,
Right.
child age. They've been since a baby or since a disaster they happened when they were 16. They just don't even realize what it feels like to feel good. And that's what I love about foot zoning, you sharing that experience is all of a sudden after this treatment and this gentleman comes back, like his vibration, his vitality, his outlook on life and just maybe even the way he looked and felt was so much better.
Right.
That is so amazing about foot zoning is that it can do that.
I remember when I was like knee deep in these sleep issues, I had people tell, because sleep is something that everyone deals. It's not like I had a broken arm with like a cast. Like, hey, something happened to me. It was like people would be like, oh, I also can't make it through the day, and I chew gum to help me stay awake and whatever. And at the time, I was like, okay, what I'm feeling feels no amount of pieces of gum is going to solve this problem. And so now that I'm like on the other side, looking back a couple years ago, like I'm almost like angry. Like I'm angry that like, I'm not actually angry, but like I'm frustrated that like people were telling me like, oh, well, yeah, me too. And now, and even no matter, I mean, who knows what their sleep situation was compared to mine, not comparison, but just the fact that's even a thought of like, oh yeah, well, I need to chew gum to get through the day. And now I'm like over here, I'm like, you don't have to, like, you don't have to, you absolutely don't have to, and you shouldn't settle for that. Like, you can have energy, like you can hit your 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock and like not need your coffee and like have energy into your last meeting of the day. And like, and now that I feel that, I'm like, wow, I really wish like I could have heard these words then and been like, don't settle. Like, you can figure this out. Like, there's an answer, and like, don't stop until you find it, because the world and like, there's so many ways to do this. And so I'm just thinking back and I'm like, man, like it makes me mad and angry and frustrated that like that was the feedback I was getting of just like, yeah, me too. I struggle with it too. And it's just life. And it's like, and I'm now like, it's not life. I will not.
Well, so one thing I love about you, Kate, is you have the power within you to be like, no, I'm not going to settle. I'm going to find something. So when someone gave you that recommendation, you were open and ready to receive and be like, hey, I'm going to go get my feet rubbed. I'm going to figure this out. You were yearning and you were searching for answers and willing to step outside of the box and try something different to get different results. And I think that's where a lot of us like to be or try to be, but because we end up hitting one doctor after the next, It's like, okay, this is just my life. But I want to let those people know that if you're listening, there are answers. There are ways to feel better. There are ways to improve your life. And for me, and for you, Kate, I'm hearing, foot zoning is one of those tools to help you. And like you had mentioned, there's something you can offer to anyone with foot zoning. If anything, it's to show service and to love and care and massage their feet. It's also to reset their whole body. It's to rebalance their systems. And I could probably go on for an hour about all the things that foot zoning does to the body. And for those of you who want to know more, foot zoning actually connects your DNA to your blueprint. Okay, so there is something way deeper than what you can imagine. But we all have DNA, but we know the study of epigenetics. And we know that DNA can change, and it can be influenced by an outside world or by chemicals or emotions. And by good things or bad things, DNA can be skewed, but there is something beyond that, which is within each of us, is the blueprint, and that is perfect. It is absolutely amazing. And so foot zoning actually connects that DNA to that blueprint when you're working on somebody's feet and connecting and rebalancing their systems. So it's absolutely amazing. Foot zoning is for anyone and everyone, and it's something you can offer.
It's interesting. Last night, I'll share this. You'll appreciate it. But my boyfriend is allergic to quinoa. Just learned this last night because there's a chemical, saponin, on quinoa naturally, and so you have to wash it. Maybe you already knew this. I didn't know.
Or soak it.
Yeah. So made food. He got really sick so fast, and I was like, whoa, this is interesting. Like, and after probably like 45 minutes, just like not feeling it, he's like, I'm trying to like throw up. Like, whatever's in there just needs to get out. It's not coming out. And he was like out of commission. And I was like, I think I can help you with that. And so he's like, how? I was like, take off your socks. Like, let's just have a look. And I go in and I just like open up spinal fluid, and then I start working on his stomach, and like within 2 minutes, just everywhere. Like, and it was like, and we were both like, oh wow.
The body was ready. Here we go.
And I was like, you might, like, this might come up, this might not, but like your stomach's going to be balancing, so it's going to do what it needs to do. And like, it's supposed to come out.
Help the body do what it needs to do.
Yeah. So if it's going to come out, it's going to come out. If it needs to stay in, it'll stay in. But like, it's worth a shot. Like, let's just see, like, because usually you do like a full session on someone, but I just like,
emergency situation. Yeah,
I just quickly like worked on his stomach, and then within less than 2 minutes, like, it was all out, and it was like, okay, this is
wow.
It's like soup. I'm like, and it just stuff like that, I feel like happens all the time. People are always texting me like, what do you do about this? And they're sending me pictures of their feet, like, oh, where do you, like, what should I do here? And I'm like, okay, well, press it on this or whatever. I feel like, that's always, it's always applicable all the time.
Yes, it's always applicable, because it's like, again, we all live in these human bodies, but it's such a blessing that it's like, okay, I got this knowledge to foot zone. I've got my hands. Let's at least try it. You have nothing to lose,
right?
And it's so helpful, because in that situation, who knows what would have happened? Would he have eventually thrown up? Yes. Would he have had a miserable day and night? Would he end up at the doctor's?
Right.
You don't know, but you had that tool to help assist the body. And that's what's so amazing, because you never know when you need it.
Right.
But there's for Kate.
Totally.
In the evening, pushing buttons to
magic. These things are magic.
Right? Our hands and our tools. Well, awesome. I appreciate you taking the time to share your story, but I do want our viewers to know who you are and how they can find you. So I don't know if you want to share a little bit about that.
Yeah, totally. So my name is Kate Hansen. I'm in Marina Del Rey. I'm in LA, and I have a website. It's katehansenhealth.com. So if anyone's in the area, there's not really any other foot zoners in LA. So yeah, I'm around. And then my Instagram's right here, Cater Tots. I made my Instagram as a joke when I went to the Olympics, and I just haven't changed it. So I'm Cater Tots. Yeah, nice to meet you. I'm Cater Tots. So yeah, my website's Kate Hansen Health, and all my information's on there. And then, yeah, anyone shoot me a message anytime. Love to work on new people, and I love what I do. So super cool.
Awesome. And she's also listed on our Amber Bodily Health Network practitioners page, so you can also find her there. So if you go to amberbodilyhealth.com, just click on network practitioners. You'll see her there. Awesome, Kate. Thank you again. Thank you for sharing your story. I appreciate it. For any of you guys who are interested in learning foot zoning, please check my stories. There's going to be a swipe up so you can get on an email list, because in the next week or two, we will be sending out information, all the details, all the logistics about the course, and if you, so that you can make your decision whether you want to learn it or not. But fabulous. And also we're making it 95% of it is just going to be online, because I know with COVID, it's put us into an interesting state on the world stage of being able to gather together. So anyways, so if you do want to learn it from your own home, majority of it from your own home, you can. You'll have all the resources. But it's a great way to also connect with other people to learn more about health. But anyways, that information is going to be, I will be sending it out soon. So make sure you get on our email list to get that information. And again, check out stories. It'll be there.
Which Amber's an incredible teacher. I've taken her classes. I've audited her classes. Like, you want to learn from her. She knows what she's talking about.
Awesome. Thank you, Kate.
Yes.
Awesome. So anyways, hopefully this has been helpful to our viewers. And again, thanks, Kate, for making this time available for us to chit chat. And again, reach out to Kate if you're in the LA area, or there's a big airport in LA. You can easily fly in to go see her.
Come on down. I'm 10 minutes from the airport. Can make it happen. Which, by the way, Amber, you're glowing. You look incredible. Your hair.
Thank you.
And you're abundant. Like, you.
Maybe it's from running around with my kids. I don't know.
Yes, just living in the most beautiful place there ever is, and just looking incredible. So anyways.
Right. Well, I got to practice what I preach, right? Get the good food, keep us alive and living, for sure.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a glorious evening. Sending blessings all your way. And again, thanks, Kate. I appreciate you.
Bye, guys. See ya.
Bye.